That's right. President Biden presided over the annual White House turkey pardon and granted clemency to Peach, Blossom, and before anyone noticed, Hunter.
Yes, there was a big joke just last week with Joe Biden pardoning the turkeys, and we made the joke here better than they did there on the same day. But Joe Biden, he still hasn't pardoned his brother James. That should be coming any hour now. Joe Biden fled the country, though. He's on the run, on the lam, aboard Air Force One. He's headed to Angola. Not the penitentiary where his son might have been sent, but the country in Africa. And I just received word a short time ago that Air Force One stopped in Cape Verde, a small island nation off the coast of Africa, for gasoline. Had to stop for gas aboard Air Force One. Eats a lot of gas. The oceans rise beneath Air Force One as it flies over. That's how much Air Force One pollutes. It's unarrested. You know, if you're flying a 747 for an airline, it's required that the engines be arrested to reduce the emissions. If you're aboard an Air Force plane, no such restrictions exist. Remarkable stuff. Well, happy Monday to you and welcome back. We remain at 888-630-9625. And I was talking to Michael a few minutes ago. In my previous life, when I was covering the Pentagon for CNN, we had traveled to South Africa and then to Ghana aboard one of these U.S. Air Force 757s with the Air Force One paint job out of Andrews Air Force Base, Joint Base Andrews. And we stopped at Cape Verde for gasoline on the way back to the United States. We left Accra, Ghana, and flew to Cape Verde for gas and fueled up for the long leg across the mighty Atlantic Ocean back to Andrews. And Air Force One, because Joe Biden fled the country last night just to get out of here. And they announced apparently ahead of time that President Biden, while in Africa, would not have any press availabilities. He is expected back in the United States on Thursday for a Christmas tree lighting at the White House. But until then, don't expect to hear a lot from Lunch Bucket Joe because he's not going to be taking any questions. Not a thing. Don't worry about him. So I want to get to the Hunter Biden pardon. And he's made it clear in a lengthy statement the White House put out that the real victims here are Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and the Biden family. They're the real victims because they've been unfairly targeted by you-know-who, those terrible Republicans. That's and who should all probably go to gulags, things like that. They love, the Gulag Archipelago, something the left gave us. It's excellent terminology, though, Gulag Archipelago. I always liked the turn of phrase. The Soviet Union had these barren prisons out in the tundra of Siberia where they threw all of their political enemies. And the Democrats are building toward that here in the United States, and they're mighty close, I've got to say. Remarkable things going on. Now, also, in addition to the Hunter Biden pardon last night, even though he was scheduled to be sentenced on December 12th, today being December 2nd, 10 days from today, he was scheduled to be sentenced in court for the gun charges lying on federal forms and things like that. Hey, you ever, when you're applying to buy a gun, hey, you ever get in any trouble for drugs or anything like that? Me? Heck no. He wrote, me? Heck no. And he checked the box, said no. Hey, were you ever kicked out of the Navy, for example, for repeated cocaine busts, cocaine abuses? Me? No, that wasn't me. And he was scheduled to be sentenced again in his tax evasion case on December 16th. And according to the smart people on the thing, they said he was going to get 3 years, looking at 3 years in prison. But never mind that. In addition to the big pardon last night, and there's, oh, no, they're targeting their political enemies. as they say. Oh, you mean like you guys put Peter Navarro in jail? Like you guys put George Papadopoulos in jail? Like you guys put Steve Bannon in jail? Like you guys pre-dawn raid with CNN camera crew in tow, attacking Roger Stone's house? Are those guys? Is that what you're talking about? Or maybe the attempt to put President Trump in prison for literally centuries, literally sentence him to centuries in prison, and what was it for? Was that a non-disclosure agreement, which every network has had women sign just in the last 12 months, not to mention the last decade, but never mind that. Amazing stuff. These people, they're the left. They're not liberals. Remarkable stuff. Yes, sir. They took out Matt Gaetz, and now they're coming after Kash Patel and Pete Hegseth. And well, to hear this, then they're going to go after Tulsi Gabbard, because they're savages. They're like ISIS. They're really closer to ISIS than they are to the John F. Kennedy administration, for example. These people. All right, now let's get to some of the audio. All this. Now we've got all kinds of wacky stuff going on. In addition to that, the crazy news media, the Washington Post today. Trump says he will replace FBI Director Wray with loyalists. Kash Patel. Wait, a loyalist as FBI director? Well, how about all the people that were targeted by Joe Biden's FBI and by the corrupt, permanent deep state, the bureaucracy? How about that? That come into play at any point in this conversation? How about the fact that Barack Obama's Attorney General, Eric H. Holder Jr., as the New York Times likes to refer to him, how about the fact that Eric H. Holder Jr. famously said that he's Barack Obama's wingman?
I'm happy. I'm still enjoying what I'm doing. There's still work to be done. I'm still a president's wingman, so I'm there with my boy.
My boy. I'm still his wingman. There's the chief law enforcement officer. It's amazing that, Barack Obama wasn't targeted and his friends weren't targeted by the Justice Department or the FBI. How did that happen? Oh, maybe it's because he had his wingman as the top law enforcement official in the United States of America, Eric H. Holder Jr., his wingman, his best buddy. More foot massages in the hot tub late at night. You don't want to know the rest. And hey, anybody remember John F. Kennedy? He was shot in the head and killed by a communist. Either that or the CIA. So, the deep state. The Democrats say, no, it wasn't. It wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald, a communist. No, it was the CIA, which is the permanent bureaucracy, which is the deep state, which they say doesn't exist. But their brains do not work as designed by God. Yeah, so Trump says he'll replace FBI Director Christopher Wray, who has abused power up the yin-yang, going after political enemies of the Democrat Party, up to and including the Mar-a-Lago raid, where the FBI people rummaged through Melania Trump's underwear, and as far as we know, dressed up in them and paraded around Mar-a-Lago. We can't say for sure, but it's one hypothesis. And but definitely through the underwear drawer, they're rifling through. And let's not forget that the FBI brought their own classified top-secret cover sheets to the Mar-a-Lago raid and then stacked up paper and put their own cover sheets, top-secret classified cover sheets, on the stacks of paper that they stacked up. And then the FBI people, photographed the staged scene that they staged, and then they provided those photographs to the news media with what they thought would be an embarrassing inclusion of a magazine cover with Donald Trump as the subject of the magazine cover. Look at this. Okay. And how about putting Roger Stone in jail with a pre-dawn raid with a CNN camera crew? And by the way, CNN had another camera crew staked out that same day outside of another Trump person's home, but they were disappointed to find the FBI didn't raid them. Steve Bannon, put him in jail, put George Papadopoulos, Naval Academy grad, in jail, put Peter Navarro in jail, because they know that power is something to be abused by them to target the political enemies of the Communist Party. You know, Barack Obama's mentor as a teenager was Frank Marshall Davis of the Communist Party. And Barack Obama made Communist Party voter John Brennan the CIA director. And then John Brennan abused his post and should have all of his security clearances stripped from him and should face charges for tampering in our elections. You may remember the 51 so-called intelligence officials, some real, some not, but penitentiary face Brennan leading the charge to undermine, to corrupt our presidential election in 2020, and it worked. The abuses of power that we've witnessed over the last handful of years, quite remarkable. Quite remarkable. And they're upset because Trump says he'll replace FBI Director Christopher Wray. Christopher Wray says he will not resign. He's 7 years into his 10-year term. Kind of goes back to the J. Edgar Hoover days, this 10-year term stuff. But he says he will not resign. So President Trump can fire his rumpus and then put Kash Patel in. Kash Patel is qualified. They're going to tell you he's not qualified. But, and also, you know, we're a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. At least we used to be, and we're supposed to be. We're not supposed to be the Soviet Union, which you may remember Elena Gorakova writing in her book, A Mountain of Crumbs. The rules are simple. They lie to us. We know they're lying. They know we know they're lying, but they keep lying to us, and we keep pretending to believe them. And we become more like the Soviet Union today than like the United States of America that so many of us grew up in and paid attention to. Amazing stuff. So it's okay if you're Barack Obama to have your wingman as the Attorney General and, oh, yeah, he's my boy and he's taking care of you, looking out for you. That's good. That's kosher. The New York Times, you know, they gave Eric Holder an award, I think. And John F. Kennedy, shot in the head and killed by a communist, or the CIA if you prefer, while you deny the existence of the deep state. His attorney general was his brother, who was then shot in the head and killed by a Palestinian who had the same view of Israel that today's Democrat Party has. Again, the Democrat Party is closer on the political spectrum today to Lee Harvey Oswald than they are to John F. Kennedy, and closer on the political spectrum to Sirhan Sirhan than they are to Robert F. Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy. That should be noted out loud. And ABC News, Trump says he'll fire FBI Director Christopher Wray, replace him with longtime ally Kash Patel. I love how suddenly your cabinet picks are not supposed to be your allies. They're supposed to be your rivals or your enemies or something, because the Democrats would lynch the entire Republican Party and everybody in it. The Democrat Party is, they'd harvest your organs, I think. Remarkable stuff. Longtime ally. Also, the New York Times today, this is a remarkable one because the long knives are out for Kash Patel and the long knives are out for Pete Hegseth. The New York Times, that turns out they can do investigative journalism if they have to. And they somehow found, how did they find it? Did the intelligence community provide this email from Pete Hegseth's mother from 6 years ago to the New York Times? Because somehow the New York Times has an email from Pete Hegseth's mother from 6 years ago, and Pete Hegseth's mother is giving him an earful, giving him what for, and all that good stuff. Remarkable. And how did the New York Times get it? Oh, we got it from a friend of the family. Really? Is that John Brennan at the CIA? Because, you know, you can't believe any of this. I got to tell you, it's a remarkable one. And the news media is all over this because they've got a rope and torches and a tree. They bring their own tree now. Democrat Party is the party of racist lynchings, by the way, and the KKK and the Confederate States of America. Also a funny Democrat story. Women are getting sterilized. Women in America. Newsweek magazine. Women are getting sterilized after Donald Trump's victory. Well, that makes good sense. Democrats. They're getting sterilized. I'm looking, I want to set up a GoFundMe page to help provide funding for Democrat women to be sterilized voluntarily, of course. You know, it's not like they're doing to school children with their transgender agenda. You know that nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled delicious flavor, the delicious flavor of Omaha steaks. And this year, You can skip all the shopping hassle and save 50% off the entire website during their cyber sale at omahasteaks.com. Plus, honestly, you get a $30 reward card when you shop early, and it's still early enough to shop early. And because you hang out with me, you get another $30 off with the promo code PLANT, Plante. Listen, growing up in Chicago, my neighbors would get Omaha Steaks delivered to their houses, Dad's grill in their backyard. I envied them. At home, starving, rubbing my hands together. I wish I could eat today. Now I get Omaha Steaks delivered to my house. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and a whole lot more. You get to save 50% off the entire Omaha Steaks website for a limited time at omahasteaks.com. Plus, because you listen to my humble radio show, another $30 off with the promo code PLANT. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and another $30 off with the promo code PLANT. How great is this? A minimum purchase may apply. Visit omahasteaks.com for details. Yes, sir. Yeah, I've got lots of audio for you here today of the crazy news media, the lies they tell. You know that whole post-election thing where they had to engage in a little introspection? That's off. That's over. Pay no attention to that. It was just another lie. That's coming up.
He did not pardon his son. He did not order the Department of Justice to say, don't prosecute my son. So impressive.
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Now, the New York Times, they got a hold of Pete Hegseth's mother's email to him from 6 years ago because the NKVD, the KGB, Lavrenti Beria is out to get him. The deep state, and they're corrupt people. They're corrupt people. Now, the New York Times also has a headline today. Listen to this. Shouldn't Trump voters be viewed as traitors? So it's that 80 million of us should. And that's, treason is a death penalty offense. It's a capital offense. You could be hanged. You could be killed by firing squad for treason. And the New York Times today is proposing, I guess, we're going to need a Holocaust. It's going to be a Holocaust. They're calling for a Holocaust against pro-American people. Wouldn't you say that sums it up? Shouldn't Trump voters be viewed as traitors? Tens of millions, 100 million Americans. The New York Times wants to wage war. It's the second Civil War, the second American Civil War. The Democrats, they started the first one because they liked bullwhipping slaves. And now they're just whipping things up, aren't they?
The president said he won't touch it. He said he's not going to pardon his son. And it seems that Merrick Garland let it go through. How can the Justice Department be weaponized against Trump when all of that is happening?
No sense of irony, these people. Boy, I don't know how they've converted tens of millions of Americans into criminals, into wishful, hopeful criminals. Boy, I hope that my political leaders are all crooks. I hope they rake in tens of millions of dollars from corrupt overseas entities in communist countries and then lie to me about it. And then I hope they abuse the justice system to make sure that they and their families get away with it. And Democrats by the millions applaud. Oh, send us more corruption. We need more. Now pardon the criminals. Oh, this is just wonderful. Millions and millions of voters, they call themselves Democrats. They're not very democratic at all. Just amazing. And they love it. They love it. Now, a funny tweet this morning. Are you familiar with the Twitter? It's remarkable. The X, here's Roseanne Barr. Remember Roseanne Barr? She's no Rosie O'Donnell, but she's Roseanne Barr. And she's got an X account. and she likes to express her opinion in public. And she, strangely, is taking a shot at Adam Schiff, the inchworm, as he is widely known. Now, the inchworm is out there. He is the biggest liar in Washington. It's like being the fastest car at Le Mans. That is quite a claim. But that's him, Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff, here's Roseanne Barr on Twitter. Adam Schiff, if Dems didn't have double standards, they would have no standards at all. What? Why is Roseanne Barr? Should I sue her? And should I find her in a sewer? What's that? What is that? She's Roseanne Barr. But I've got to say, this is a line that's used by a lot of people, and usually they mangle it. But Roseanne Barr got it perfect. She got it exactly right the first time. If Dems didn't have double standards, they would have no standards at all. Isn't that fascinating? That's what Roseanne Barr tweeted. Now, why would Roseanne Barr tweet that? You might want to know, because that's kind of a weird thing. Well, because Roseanne Barr then posted a 2018 video, April 19th of 2018, when President Trump was in the White House. And what did Adam Schiff say in 2018 when Donald Trump was in the White House about all this stuff? Well, Adam Schiff not only appeared on CNN to say these things, Adam Schiff then got a clip of the video of himself on CNN, and he posted it on his own Twitter account. And Adam Schiff wrote in 2018, if the president issues a pardon in a case in which he or his family are implicated, the American people need to know whether it's part of an attempt to obstruct justice. This bill would make that possible and serve as a powerful deterrent. Adam Schiff, 2018, April 19th, on CNN.
What it would do is say that in the event the president pardons anyone in an investigation in which the president is a witness, a subject, or the target, those investigative files will all be turned over to the Congress. The Congress ought to know whether the president is using the pardon power to obstruct justice. The American people have a right to know. I think it is clearly constitutional. It doesn't prohibit him from granting a pardon, even a pardon he shouldn't grant. But it does say...
the NSA just intervened. We got zapped by a laser in space. Now, how did that happen, Michael? Or maybe your finger didn't work. It's either NSA laser in space or Michael's finger. I don't know.
But it does say that we will be able to at least find out whether the president is using this power to shield himself from liability.
It offers transparency.
It offers transparency. They love that word, transparency. They don't know what it means. And it's pretty funny, I think, that today, Roseanne Barr, of all people, out of the blue, saying, were it not for double standards, liberals would have no standards at all, and posted that Adam Schiff clip from CNN. Quite remarkable. One of my sayings, of course. In fact, we have this saying on T-shirts and on coffee mugs. Were it not for double standards, liberals would have no standards at all. Now, she says, if Dems didn't have, but I like to say, were it not for double standards, because English is my first language. That's one of my things there, the English language. But I do love this New York Times. The New York Times today, they're making a big splash. Pete Hegseth's mother wrote him an email in 2018 that the New York Times got a hold of. How does that happen? Is that the deep state digging through email files? Because they collect everything, you know. You remember, who was the director of national intelligence that lied repeatedly under oath? Was that Clapper that lied repeatedly under oath about spying on all of us and collecting all of our metadata and all of our data and storing all of our emails and phone data on giant servers that they built in Utah and in Virginia and all of that?
Does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
Lie.
It does not.
Not wittingly.
Lie. 2 felony perjuries under oath to Congress, James Clapper, Director of National Intelligence, to left-wing Senator Ron Wyden, who knew that they were spying on all of us. And now when I see the New York Times come up with an email from Pete Hegseth's mother from 2018, I've got to scratch my head and say, which criminal in our government is responsible for spilling this to the New York Times? Just like the FBI provided photographs that they took of a scene that they staged inside Mar-a-Lago with top secret classified cover sheets that they brought to Mar-a-Lago. And then they provided the photographs to the media, creating an incriminating image of the President of the United States. Pretty amazing stuff. But then the New York Times, just my favorite, shouldn't Trump voters be viewed as traitors? As traitors. Again, a traitor has committed treason. Treason is potentially a death penalty offense. And the New York Times is suggesting that tens of millions of Americans should be condemned as traitors because they support their country. And the traitors are, of course, at the New York Times. And I got to tell you, the New York Times, formerly a news organization, pretty amazing stuff. All right, now let me get to this statement put out by the Biden White House about pardoning the son of the President of the United States because, that's what they get to do. They've got the power. They get to abuse it. That's their plan. And so Joe Biden announced last night, oh, yeah, we are pardoning the president's son, and we're giving him a 10-year, almost 11-year window where no matter what he did, he's been pardoned by the president of the United States, who just coincidentally happens to be his daddy. Isn't that amazing? Your Democrat Party at work. I don't think they're on our side. I've come to the conclusion that they're not regular Americans. So the White House put out a statement from President Joe Biden, December 1st, 2024, last night. Today, I signed a pardon for my son, Hunter. Should just leave it at that. But instead it goes on and on. Listen to this, because they have to paint themselves as the victims here. From the day I took office, it's been tough, hasn't it? I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making. And I kept my word. Well, did you? Really? As I have watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. Now, isn't he indicting the Justice Department for politically targeting people for some kind of corrupt reason? That's in the first two sentences. He's indicting the Justice Department for selectively and unfairly prosecuting political targets. But wait a minute, isn't that what you guys have just been shouting everyone down for saying on the Republican side? And aren't there a whole lot of people on the Republican side that have been targeted, from Peter Navarro and George Papadopoulos to Steve Bannon to Roger Stone and on, and Donald Trump, not to mention Donald Trump. Again, the FBI staging photos at Mar-a-Lago and releasing them immediately to the press to create an incriminating image of the president they didn't vote for. Amazing stuff. This is why they have to keep Kash Patel from taking over at the FBI. And they're doing everything they can, the fake news media, and that's the news media overwhelmingly. They're protecting the permanent bureaucracy. They're protecting the state. They're not holding the powerful accountable. They're acting as a shield for the powerful and the corrupt. That should be a soap opera every day on ABC. The powerful and the corrupt. So Joe Biden lied. I kept my word, even as I've watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted, presumably by a corrupt Justice Department and FBI. Without aggravating factors like use in a crime, sure, multiple purchases or buying a weapon as a straw purchaser, People are almost never brought to trial on felony charges solely for how they filled out a gun form. Oh, is that so? Let's line up the people now. See, if we had a news media, they'd be lining up, they'd ring the bell and say, all right, who's been charged with this without aggravating circumstances? And thousands would come forward. Those who were late paying their taxes because of serious addictions. See, he evaded his taxes for years and years, and the President of the United States falls back on, well, sure, he's a junkie. He's a crackhead. Well, with the hookers and the call girls and the strippers and the illegitimate children. So those who are late paying their taxes because of serious addiction but paid them back subsequently, somebody else paid it actually, with interest and penalties, somebody else's money, are typically given non-criminal resolutions. I'd like to think that were true, but it is clear that Hunter was treated differently. Yeah, they allowed the statutes of limitations to expire on a number of his charges and then said, hey, we can't do anything because we sat here on our hands for years and now the statute of limitations has expired. The changes in his case came about, the charges in his case came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress instigated them to attack me and oppose my election. Now it's all about him, and he's a victim, and he's the target of political hardship here. Then a carefully negotiated plea deal. It was a carefully negotiated plea deal where he walked free. Agreed to by the Department of Justice, unraveled in the courtroom because the judge said this is complete hooey, and she wouldn't allow it. With a number of my political opponents in Congress taking credit for bringing political pressure on the process. You guys are delivering political pressure all day, every day. It's all you do. Had the plea deal held where he walked with nothing, it would have been a fair, reasonable resolution of Hunter's cases, plural. Yeah, because there was a crooked fix that was put in Delaware. And a federal judge said, no, we're not having any of that. No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he is my son. And that is wrong. Now, left-wingers have been peddling this for a long time, and it's been disproven again and again. There has been an effort to break Hunter, who has been 5.5 years sober. Sure. Well, let's take a little testy poo then. What do you think? Even in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective prosecution. Now, again, shall I return to the list of people that were actually prosecuted in a politically selective fashion, like Steve Bannon and Roger Stone and Peter Navarro and George Papadopoulos? 5.5 years sober. So listen, in trying to break Hunter, they've tried to break me. And there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough. For my entire career, I have followed a simple principle. Just tell the American people the truth, says the famous liar, Joe Biden. They'll be fair-minded. Here's the truth. I believe in the justice system. But as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected this process and led to a miscarriage of justice, And once I made this decision this weekend, there was no sense in delaying it further. I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision. That's Joe Biden. He really cares. He really seems to care about his crackhead, stripper, knocker-upper, Russian hooker, Dayton, money laundering, FARA. And there's the FARA. See, he violated the Foreign Agents Registration Act, too. And he's cleared of that now, too, because everything for the last 10 years, 11 months, everything that he's done for 10 years and 11 months, cleared. Doesn't matter. He could be shooting people in the middle of Fifth Avenue. No problem. It is good to be a Democrat. Corruption is everywhere. Joe Biden is corrupt. Hunter Biden is corrupt. James Biden has to be pardoned next, Joe Biden's brother, because he's corrupt too. And they spread out the $27 million among, 19 members of the Biden family. No problem there. You know that the all-new third-generation Eden Pure thunderstorm air purifier is finally here. It has arrived, and it builds on the incredible success of previous generations, which earned thousands of five-star reviews online and quickly became a bestseller. The new thunderstorm uses two different technologies, and studies have shown that these technologies help to kill 99.9% of bacteria and viruses in the air. Also removes dust and pet dander and smoke and a whole lot more, and helps get rid of any odor. No filters to replace again and again, too. The thunderstorm will help get rid of any stinky smell, guaranteed. Trash cans, stinky shoes, musty basements, even left-wing protesters. Michael Moore is no match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier. And right now, you can save $200 American on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. You put one in the teenager's room, one in the kitchen, one in the basement, maybe one at work, one as a gift. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code CHRIS3, CHRIS, and the number 3 to save $200 on 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is CHRIS3. Yes, sir. Yeah, so there it is, long-winded letter. It's almost like he had something to do with this one. What about me? I'm the real victim here. I'm the president. My party was mean to me. They kicked me out. My son's a crackhead. Of course he didn't pay his taxes, but then somebody else paid him later, so that should be okay, right?
You know, it's been the unfair advantage of my whole life. It's a hell of a lot easier to get noticed, not only by the cop who pulls you over for speeding, but also by the school or the whatever the endeavor may be, or the law firm.
I think it would be unfair to go to a phone call right now because the clock is doing what clocks do. But I've got really remarkable stuff still ahead. The left is going after Kash Patel, as I mentioned. President Trump's pick to lead the FBI, and the media, they protect the bureaucracy. They protect the state. We have a very perverse media right now. I understand you didn't vote for Republicans. You're members of the news media. You didn't vote for Trump. But you filthy people, you're supposed to hold feet to the fire, hold government accountable. You're not supposed to be handmaidens. You know, they got the Handmaid's Tale. Handmaidens to the permanent bureaucracy, to the state, to the government. That's not your job.